Everybody, and welcome back to more political chatter. In this video, we will be talking about Congressman Dean Phillips from Minnesota and his late entry into the 2024 presidential race. Now, I must say, I was not expecting any more entries into this presidential race. By late October, November, it has usually been settled by then. The candidates, a few have dropped out. Some Republicans have dropped out. And yeah, the field is usually set. We usually don't see a serious contender, meaning a elected official like Dean Phillips, a U.S. congressman, to join the race. But he is in this presidential race now, and he is a Democratic congressman from Minnesota. Doesn't have that high of a national profile. He doesn't really have a national profile at all. Not a huge position in the House of Representatives, but he is running against his party's president, which I mean is absolutely unexpected, and we continue to see this unexpected, shocking retaliation from voters against Joe Biden. That's in polls and even from someone who would be supporting him, like Congressman Dean Phillips is now running against him because he recognizes that people want other choices, that Democrats need other choices. Looking back at this presidential primary here, the average when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Marianne is still in the race, but the average for Kennedy when he was in the Democratic primary before he switched independent and Marianne Williamson was 14.3 for Kennedy and 7.6 for Marianne. That's 22% for other candidates besides Joe Biden, along with undecided. These people who are still not supporting Biden at 12%. So that makes it, 33%. A third of the party right now is not supporting Joe Biden. And this might not seem like a lot, and it's not like this would be considered a race that Biden can lose, but it kind of is when you consider previous primaries. In 2020, Bill Weld, Trump's opponent in the primary, received 2% nationwide, and that was his strongest challenger. In 2012, Barack Obama, literally no one was running, just perennial candidates. He received probably 99% of the vote. George W. Bush in 2004 received probably 99% of the primary vote. He had no challengers. Bill Clinton had no primary challengers. The last president, who was challenged seriously by someone for re-election in the primary was George H.W. Bush in 1992. Pat Buchanan ran against him, and Pat Buchanan wasn't even like an elected official. The last congressperson to launch a bid against their party's president for their re-election was Ted Kennedy against Jimmy Carter in 1980. That's 43 years ago. And so it doesn't happen often, but it's happening now. So that just shows you how really strange and spectacular and interesting this primary is becoming, because there is very strong anti-Biden sentiment in this party among Democrats. And I'll mind you, Phillips has not even been polled once. So, but anyway, back on Dean Phillips and his presidential run, which is what this video is actually about. Dean Phillips announced Friday, that he would run for president. Initially with a video. There was a little shakeup with like his Twitter account or whatever. I don't know. But he did end up releasing a video where he announced his bid. He then proceeded to go to the New Hampshire State House, file with the Federal Election Commission, get on the ballot in New Hampshire. Very interesting. Yesterday was the last day that you could do this. So he's cutting it close. That's for sure. This is a last minute long shot quest. Looking at the timeline here, look at this. Marianne Williamson joined in when? February or something. Kennedy, Biden, this race has been going on for a while. Kennedy dropped out. Dean Phillips joins yesterday. So much of a difference. So, Phillips definitely has a uphill battle, to say the least. But he filed with the Federal Election Commission. Added a little signed button onto the board, whatever. And then he gave a speech outside of the New Hampshire State House to a small group of supporters, campaign staff, media. Just a little small event, because it's not like everyone knows who Dean Phillips is. Nobody knows who Dean Phillips is. He is not a powerful figure in Congress. He's just not, and he's not well known. But why is he running? He says that he's running because, it's interesting. He's running a very interesting campaign because he says that Biden has been here's his website, by the way, has been a terrific president. He literally said that, even though he's running against him. However, he says that Biden is too old. And mainly because of that, he will probably lose to Donald Trump in 2024. And we cannot afford that. Lots of Republicans are running on that, Trump was a good president, but he will lose to Biden. So, they're going against each other there. But that's why he's running. He says we need a normal age president, someone who's not 82 or whatever. So Dean Phillips, younger, very middle of the road. He is extremely similar to Biden when it comes to policy positions. He has voted with Biden some 99% of the time, or maybe it was 100% of the time. So he's just like Biden. And honestly, I think that he would do very well if he had a national profile. Just him in general. He's a very likable guy. He's middle-aged, very relatable, and as I said, very middle of the road, understanding. And you can respect his policies. Everyone can, I think. So he's very similar to a Pete Buttigieg type. Someone that could appeal to a very wide group of Democrats. Now, if this was a actual contested primary like in 2020, where, Dean Phillips could get on the debate stage where whatever people talked about this primary more, then I could see him doing well. But when the DNC is acting like this primary doesn't exist, it'll be hard for even someone who, like Dean Phillips, who would do well in a normal primary. It's just going to be hard for him to do well. When it comes to money, not sure how much money he has in this race. I know he's putting something like, I think it said $45,000 in ads in New Hampshire. Will it be enough? I don't know. But, what makes this race so much more interesting is the fact that Biden will not be on the Democratic primary ballot in New Hampshire. And Dean Phillips, and Marianne Williamson, and Kennedy, when he was in the race, all were betting big on New Hampshire because of this. So if you didn't know, I have a whole video on this. If you want to check that out, look it up. But the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, changed the primary schedule, putting South Carolina first, and then New Hampshire and Nevada second, and then Iowa's thrown all the way back there, and Michigan, and then Georgia, and just some Super Tuesday or whatever. So they say it's to have more diversity as the first state, such a consequential state. However, a lot of people say this is just because they want to save Biden. For South Carolina will be first. They don't want any upsets in New Hampshire where people like Marianne Williamson, like RFK Jr., like Dean Phillips can do well. So, New Hampshire doesn't care, and they're holding their primary first anyway. Now they won't have any delegates at the convention. Doesn't really matter in the long run, but it is still so important that New Hampshire comes first because they will still have influence. It's not like everyone will just forget about New Hampshire, even though they, just because they don't have delegates. The winner of the Democratic primary in New Hampshire will definitely gain momentum. And I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, Dean Phillips or Marianne Williamson, it's anyone's game, honestly, to put it fairly. I don't know who's going to win because Biden will not be on the ballot. Voters who vote for Biden will have to write in his name. People really don't do write-ins. It's very uncommon to write in a candidate's name. They will look at this long list of candidates and say, so many of these people you haven't heard of. I mean, Furman Supreme, Paperboy, Love Prince. But they're going to see Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson, who have actually, had some money to run ads and stuff. People, might have at least heard of them a little bit. No one else, really, that voters haven't heard of. So, it'll be very interesting. I don't really know because there hasn't been any polling among Williamson, and I mean the polling wouldn't even be accurate because it's not like Biden will be on the ballot. I could see a lot of voters who are kind of more uneducated, haven't kept up with the news, not seeing Biden's name and just voting for Marianne Williamson, or if they've heard of Dean Phillips, maybe Dean Phillips. So I don't know. But New Hampshire could honestly, seriously, give Dean Phillips, Marianne Williamson some momentum in this race. So, very interesting, to see what will happen. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.